You're listening to the Major Pod Network, the only place where your favorite toy store, card shop, arcade, theme park, and arena are all on the same block. Scratch that major itch.
This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feis and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast presented by the Major Pod Network. I am Mr. Anything is Feasible, George Feis.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash, and today we are breaking down steel cage matches in wrestling video games, which ones will get to play it forever, woo! And which will get the future endeavor.
You're fired!
We also discuss Gameboree 2022, Gotham Knights, and more in gaming news.
And don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review for this podcast on both Apple Podcast and Spotify. And don't forget to follow along on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod, and check out the exclusive content we are creating for our Patreon at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. Johnny Clash, my friend, we liked Game Wars so much. We're now doing a mini Game Wars of breaking down the best and worst of steel cage matches in video games. Very excited.
I figured we'd keep it a little on the lighter side. We're just going to discuss, chat, talk about the good, the bad, the weird, the ugly, the nice, all of that. I think me and you personally prefer Hell in a Cell matches in video games.
Yeah.
We play them every chance we get. I think maybe that's speaks for everyone. I know a steel cage match sometimes could be a drag, so I wanted to see which ones are the good that you prefer playing and which ones kind of suck. So we're going to take you through that today.
All right. But let's do a little follow-up from last week. We visited a franchise that is near and dear to our hearts, something that we discovered on this podcast, and that is Kinnikuman Muscle Grand Prix Max 2. How you feel? Still in love with the series as much as I am?
Oh yeah, I think it's just always going to be one of those things that you just love and it can't do any wrong. I still have not dove into the actual anime aspect of it, which if I ever have a moment to breathe, I will. It's been on the list for years now, but it's something I'm looking forward to eventually doing.
Absolutely. Myself included in that list, in that rewatch category that you also want to do. It's one of those things that it's been around for so long, and there's so many different versions of it. There's the full Japanese version, there's the American redubbed version, so there's a lot to watch. There's the whole manga series that you can go back and read. There's a lot of Kinnikuman content, but let's talk about our favorite time of year, John. It is Gameboree. It is rapidly approaching, and some exciting news for who is the main sponsor for this year. John, I will do the drum roll and you can announce it.
Gameboree 2022 kicking off November 1st, and we have, oh boy, do we have sponsors this year. Our main sponsor, Retromania Wrestling, is on board. Their name is going to be up in the lights with ours, but also returning from last year, Secret Levels Podcast and Best Batch Promotions, where we got majority of our amazing prizes last year for the top donors.
Absolutely.
And we'll be doing the same again this year. And of course, Zavvi. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. It's the mecca of all pop culture, and they're going to supply some prizes and a few other things. So I am looking forward to this year's event. Look out more for when the webpage goes live on November 1st. We'll have how to donate, where to donate, what prizes you could win by donating, when the streams will be, all of the above. I can't wait. This is the best thing we do all year. Last year we raised, I think, $3,300 for St. Jude, which is insane. Just to think how far we came from the first year. It was like 700, and we bought a few video games to donate to Cohen's Medical. Then I think we broke 1,000 the year after, and last year over 3,000. That is absurd.
It's insane. Like John said, it's literally the best thing that we do on this podcast, and it was something that we both felt that we wanted to do even from the first year of the podcast. I mean, this podcast started in August, and between August and November, we were like, we should really do something for the kids around the holidays. So we started Gameboree, and here we are. But in addition to that, we're also going to be kind of revealing the tricks that we got up our sleeves, and how we're going to incentivize you guys to maybe
incentivize.
Yeah. To donate a little bit more. Yes, you're doing it for a great cause. Yes, there's an opportunity to win some great prizes, but John and I are going to do some things that will most likely embarrass us along the way, so that you guys can enjoy and get some great content out of it, of course.
There's always the incentive. What is it? $5,000 we get matching Game Marks podcast tattoos.
Yes. $5,000 is
there's the goal.
That's the goal. Matching GMP Man logo tattoos for me and Johnny Clash. But yeah, Gameboree. Can't wait. Coming up soon. But John, let's talk about our Twitter and a thing that we like to do very, very much. That is the video game history. Who's up next?
Up next, which we are so close, will be the video game history of Mick Foley. That is when we hit 1,000 Twitter followers. We are so close to being there, and we can't wait to release. It's some kind of like this episode, how we just do a deep dive on the history of something. And that is going to be Mick. I cannot wait. It's so cool to just add him to our collection of deep dives we've done before. And yeah, get us there. We only need, I think, about 60 more followers. Come on.
60 more. Guys, John Cena fucking follows us. Get on that shit.
And you can't even see the guy. All right, George. You ready to talk about some cage matches?
Man, I don't think that the people at home realize how many games have cage matches in them,
right?
And how many interesting and weird styles of cage matches there are, and some of the design choices that were made along the way. So I'm very, very ready. I am full sprinting off of the diving board, and I don't know. Am I doing a can opener or a cannonball? What's it going to be this time? I don't know. Are you ready?
I'm doing a swanton off the cage. Let's go. Hey, George. You see this light here that says game over that I point to at the end of every single episode, like Ronda Rousey pointing to that WrestleMania sign?
I do.
Do you know where I got it?
Why don't you tell me?
I got it from Zavvi. That's us.zavvi.com, Z-A-V-V-I, and they literally have everything. I have spent hours on this website looking up Mandalorian, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, like everything you could imagine. There's Legos, Power Rangers. You could pre-order the new Marvel Legends. It's an insane website that has literally everything pop culture. There's even Batman shoes on here.
I mean, I know for me, a little like adult Zen garden project that I like to do is like the smaller Lego sets, and Zavvi has a lot of those Lego sets on there and getting kind of itchy. So if you like all things pop culture, like John said, Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Harry Potter, Nintendo, they're even getting into the wrestling game now.
Oh yeah.
Zavvi is the place for you.
That's right. Use code GameMarks, simply just GameMarks, at checkout, and you can get 10% off.
I'm going to redo my wardrobe. All right, so this deep dive, of course, brought to you by our good friends at Zavvi. Make sure to use code GameMarks. You heard the ad. You heard our little plug ski for it. You heard us talk about them at the top of the episode, but here we go. Steel cage matches. Here are some, I guess, noteworthy mentions that we should say here. I mean, obviously, the first game that comes to mind, WWF Steel Cage Challenge. It's literally it's a good one. It's a good camera angle for the cage match. You get the whole picture. It's a little drawn out, so you get to see the whole a little bit of the crowd, the apron, the cage.
So this is a weird one because it's one of the most, I think, notable games that revolves around a steel cage, which the next one we'll get to as well. But to revolve a whole game around a steel cage is kind of odd, but I get it. Back then, it was such a special attraction to have a cage match that it was a cool little difference. But I think I would be a little pissed if I was a wrestling game fan and maybe there's certain other features you want, and instead you're getting your... they weren't really yearly releases at the time, but you're getting your next release based all around a cage. But that's for me to say for someone who doesn't really like steel cage matches in video games. But I could see when this game came out, maybe that was something that was really cool and people liked.
I like the later steel cage matches where there was a little bit more... I don't know, interaction with the cage, where it was like, you could do a little bit more with the cage. You could climb up the cage, you can jump off the cage, you can stand on top of the cage and like shimmy across and do like the little Shelton Benjamin crab walk thing. Like where there was a little bit more, I don't know, of an experience in a cage match. It wasn't just, okay, there's a fixed animation where you go up and out, and the only thing that you have to do is either button mash, or in some cases, you don't even have to button mash. You hit a button combination and you're gone. You're out of the cage.
Yeah, we're going to get into that later with the more recent 2K releases, how they're all pretty much similar, and they all stem from the original SmackDown games. But Steel Cage Challenge, when you look at it, it looks like a cool cage. It's the old school blue cage. There's no ropes in the ring, which I always found odd that they just didn't just draw the ropes in, and we'll all be okay. But the next one, Rage in the Cage, another game, this one for the Sega, that also revolves around the steel cage. All very pretty, very beautiful game. We mentioned while we play in our playthrough, this is the one that we chose to play. It's so visually just beautiful, and the animations are some of our favorites in any game. I think the cage is cool. It's a little short. You could only climb up in the corners of the ring, and it's kind of difficult to get out anyway. And the cage is not very interactive. It's kind of, you could just hit into it when you're doing a move, and that's really it. You guys both fall and you get back up. I think it's cool to put a cage in a game, but do a little something with it.
Yeah, and also, I guess I never really noticed it until you brought it up, but there's a huge gap in between the ring posts and the actual turnbuckle pad. The turnbuckle is 2 feet long. Because
they made the ring apron huge. The hardest part of the ring. It's such a big gap. And you can't even do anything on it in this. Yeah, I think it's probably just because tag matches, that's the way it is. So
yeah,
I get it.
It's very interesting. And then moving on from there is another questionable design. We're going to talk about WWF Superstars 2 now, where
for the Game Boy,
it almost looks like the outside of a business. There's a big WWF logo.
That big building in Connecticut.
I guess maybe. It's very strange.
It's like an industrial cage, almost like a prison cell, but the big WWF logo on the side of it, bolted on.
It's almost like they're trying to advertise something. I don't know.
Yeah, right? It's just a little weird, especially for a Game Boy game where the screen is, 2 inches? 1 by 2?
Yeah, it's very, very, very tiny.
Really cramming the screen there.
Yeah, very strange design for a cage. Again, like John said, it's very prison-esque. It's very detention block, or it almost looks like what you would see if... It almost looks like a security fence of sorts. It doesn't even look like a cage. Yeah, it just looks
something you have to break out of in Splinter Cell or something. I don't know.
Exactly.
But let's talk about some unique cages that we see that aren't just traditional. Yeah, I could speak today. Traditional cage matches in wrestling games. And here's one that we played in our playthrough this week, and that's ECW Anarchy Rules. There is a cage match, which is very similar to Warzone and Attitudes, but there's also Rage in the Cage, or Rage in a Cage, I think it's called. Either of those. Yeah, opposite of the game. The game is WWF Rage in the Cage. This one's Rage in a Cage.
Yeah.
They couldn't use the same thing, licensing and all that shit.
It's so different with the A and the, they'll never pick up on it.
Yeah.
No one will ever know the difference.
So it's essentially an octagon, and it's
huge. It's
huge.
3 UFC octagons in one. This thing is massive.
But I think the only difference between that and an actual ring is you can't bounce off the ropes. Everything else is the same. It's essentially fighting outside the ring.
Yeah, and it's, pin, submission, all that good stuff.
If you get whipped all the way to the other side of this octagon, you will hit it and go, "Oh."
Yeah, good luck, because each if you Irish whip from one corner to another, it's probably a good 15 seconds in between.
Oh, yeah.
One end of the cage to the other. But the next one that I want to bring up, John, is one that I am genuinely surprised isn't featured in more of these fantastical, over the top wrestling games, and that's the WWE Battlegrounds electrified steel cage.
One, I think, of the weirder ones there, because it's not like escape and win. You have to collect the money, fill up your little money meter.
Yeah.
There's money bags that fly all over. The cage is electric. Now,
Boogie woogie woogie.
I haven't played this version in a long time, even when we played it a few weeks ago. It's not electric all the time, right?
No. So what happens is there's an alarm countdown.
Right.
And then it gives you the warning signals, and then I think it gets either faster or louder, maybe even both. And obviously the last one is the thing that alerts you that it's going to get electrified. But I'm surprised more games haven't done the electrified fence,
especially the ECW games.
Exactly.
If you think about it, though, which games would?
I feel like a Fire Pro game would absolutely do that.
Fire Pro, yeah, that's true.
I mean, granted, a lot of their match types are based in reality,
right?
And I don't think that there have been a lot of electrified, that. I'm thinking this now, and I'm like, oh man, electrified cage match. Yeah, they'll introduce that when they do the Kennel from Hell match in a game. It's just, it's things that on paper you're like, that'd be a cool thing, but logistically, how the hell would you make that work?
Right. See, this one's unique, where as you get to All Stars, and that's more of a straightforward cage match.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a weird, electric and over the top, where the game is, but this one's even more over the top, more silly, if you will. But Fire Pro has cages. It has the gruesome fighting.
Yep,
aspect.
Absolutely. What I think would be cool for an electrified cage match would be, it's a cage match, a regular standard cage match, but the intervals in the early stages of the match, the intervals between when the cage gets electrified are shorter and increase in time as the match goes on. But later on in the match, they're not happening as frequently, but the amount of damage that they deal is higher.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So it kind of scales up,
That'd be
so
cool.
It's not you're immediately just match has started, getting out of the cage.
So in the Fire Pro Wrestling series, it's just a regular cage.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about it. They have the exploding death match, barbed wire, whatever, but the cage is just the cage.
It's just a regular cage, and there's a gruesome fighting. That's the octagon style.
Right. Now let's talk about some of the good cages, because there's definitely some bad ones out there, but we'll start with the good. So the newer cages, I think, in the 2K games, I think you can go all the way back to the first SmackDown versus Raw. They're all so similar. I mean, some of them have a meter that you have to fill all the way to get over. Some of them you have to button mash, but generally they're all somewhat similar. I hate this in real life and in video games, escaping through the door. It's so stupid having a ref call to open the door.
Yeah.
It takes away all the drama, I think, unless they're they're crawling and then they get pulled back. But I like that so much better of them climbing over the top. But even in the newer games, there's a referee outside that opens the door for you.
It's a weird thing that started to get put into video games and in real life, but I don't know. I'm with you. I think the whole point of the cage match is that you're supposed to be trapped in here.
Right.
And the only way to get out is to climb out. And I also agree with what you said about the newer design of cages. Like, and I like that in more recent games, there's the option for you to pick the style of cage. So you can have like the chain link style. You can have like Big Blue. You can go to like when WWE had like the red cage that was like, it was just Big Blue, but it was painted red. Then they had the same one, but it was painted black. Like it's all of those variations.
Just reminds me of St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
But again, going back to what I said earlier, the newer cages give you that option to do those. You can be Rikishi and do the giant, Snuka style splash off the cage. You can, be Kurt Angle and do the moonsault. You could Jeff Hardy. You can Shelton Benjamin. Like, there's all these spots that like happened off the cage that for so long you weren't able to recreate. And then with the newer style of cage and how they were able to add the scaffold style top of the cage was implemented in real life before it made it to video games, just because of the limitations of the hardware and stuff. And like that aspect, it used to just be, guys were just perched on top of the cage and they would grab the cable. And I was like, well, hope I don't lose my balance here. But like, to be able to have that implemented into video games where you could do stuff like that, like for me personally, I feel like that was and pardon the irony of what I'm about to say here, but I feel like it was like a literal game changer. Like, it really just did like open up a whole world of things that you could do.
Now, I'm wondering if maybe in the next game we can get the cage that Rollins and Riddle fought in at Extreme Rules, because that was pretty sweet. The no ropes, had the platform up above.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
I think that's really, really cool. And I'm surprised that we never got, like back in the day, the, oh God. Lion's Den? Is that what it was?
Yep, Lion's Den.
Like a Lion's Den match in a game? Like, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Because they did, what, 2 of them? 3 of them?
Yeah, it wasn't that many, so I guess that's why it wasn't in a game, but that would have been cool. Now, let's go back to that era, and let's talk about Warzone and Attitude, because they're both very similar cages, as with ECW Hardcore Revolution as well. Yep. No ropes. It's kind of a weird-looking chain link. But I gotta say, I like it. It's one of the more interactive cages you could play in an older video game. You could climb the top, and like you said, you could jump off the top. I know the guys are a little flat-footed once they get up there. They're kind of standing there awkwardly with their hands at their side before they jump off. But I think it's pretty cool.
There's no like trying to get their balance. They're standing there the same way that they would be standing on the floor, and they just kind of do like a little like side shuffle when they're going across.
And they don't forget about the fact that there's no ropes. If you hit the cage, you're hitting the cage going, "Urgh," and you're hitting the damn cage. But I think that's a pretty good one that maybe won't come up in this conversation because the games are not good. But it's one of the aspects that I think was. And correct me if I'm wrong. You could change the color of the cage, maybe? I don't remember. I know you could customize the arena.
I don't know if it's in both of them, but I think in one of them you can pick whether you want a black or steel. Like I don't think it's blue or black. I think you can either get like the silver cage or the black cage. But I think you're right.
But speaking of different colored cages, here are 2 that are very similar. WrestleFest, which we know we love. It's kind of simple, but it looks nice. That big blue cage. It's very well detailed for an older game. But then Retromania Wrestling brought that back to life a couple years ago. But you could choose between the chain link, the big blue, the black, the whatever.
There's so many cages and
so many options. Just think of that animation that they have when the cage comes down and it like folds. Folds together. I love that. It's one of my. I don't like cage matches, but Retromania, it's one of my favorite matches to do in that game.
Yeah, well, because they do it, they make it like the introduction of the cage is fun, and like the presentation and the fact that you can customize so many different aspects of it is cool. And it's it's the same thing like what we were talking about with the other games, like the ability to choose what type of cage you're in, it's like you're not fixed into one thing. So if you have an attachment to like Big Blue and you want to have people wrestle in Big Blue, then you could do that. And it's just like an added little feature in Retromania, like we said, has that, and it makes it like next level for cage matches.
It's almost as if it's an afterthought, but not in a bad way. Like, it's a cage match, but the cage is there, and it's not in the way. It's not... It works. It just works without, like, thinking about it.
Oh, when you said that, what I thought you were saying is that, like, when you pick a cage match, the cage drops because the cage was an afterthought, and they're like, yeah, and then there's some guy in the back, and he goes, oh, shit, this is supposed to be a cage match. And he hits the button, and that's why the cage drops.
Yeah, there's no dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
All right, another really good cage, in my opinion, is No Mercy. We've spent so much time in this cage. I think that animation of you taking the guy's head and bouncing it off the sides is incredible. It's right up there with Stone Cold doing it to Rikishi in real life, hitting all four sides of the cage in that match. That big blow off to him getting hit by a car that they just kind of forgot about after.
He did it for The Rock.
I think, which we're going to talk about this one a little later, from the WrestleMania 2000 cage to this one, whereas it might be a little pixely, a little grainy, it is night and day difference. It's nice, it's good, but not just the cage itself. I think the fact that you need full health, a special even, to go out of the cage and win is, I guess, more competitive. It's like a better aspect than just button mashing, where you button mash once you can get over.
Go and see a perfect example of why you need full stamina to climb the cage in the THQ AKI series in the YouTube video for this episode. I have a love-hate relationship with the textures for the No Mercy
Tire
cage.
N64.
Yeah.
We played Mario Golf last week. It wasn't much better.
There are certain parts of the cage where it's great because the amount of detail that they put in, like they've got like the support beams and like all of like the, there's a lot of detail into like making it look like it's an actual structure and not just like a chain link that is just there. But the way that they made the textures and then had them overlap in certain areas leaves a little bit to be desired. It's not bad by any means, but I think that they succeeded in other aspects of having like textures tile and repeat, and in certain spots for the cage match, it kind of like, there are other iterations that are better, but it's not the worst, but it's not the best.
No, I think my only gripe with it is how tall it actually is and how long it takes to climb it.
Yeah.
It took us about 20 minutes to do a match in WrestleMania 2000 earlier, and I don't think any match should have to take that long. Let's talk about some of the bad cages now, because I'm going to go all the way down to SmackDown 1 and 2 right now, and that's an asterisk, which I'll get to after. So SmackDown 1 and 2, it's the older style cage. It eventually upgrades to the newer style chain link, but it does start as the old, whatever you want to call it. Not the blue one, the black one after. And that cage was not around at the time, I don't think, that this SmackDown game came out, but okay, I get it. It's probably easier to create than a chain link fence. But here's the thing. When you climb that cage, you might as well just be a slug, because you're going, you climb left arm, right arm.
These are the days that you need the turbo button on your controller just to get up the cage.
Now, it doesn't get better. SmackDown 1, SmackDown 2, it's exactly the same. The cage looks better, but the match stays the same. Just bring it, shut your mouth, here comes the pain. They're all the same. This is all the same cage match. They're just as slow.
Yeah.
I think by the time you get to Here Comes the Pain and SmackDown versus Raw, it gets a little bit better, but it is painful. And again, at least in SmackDown 1, there's no ropes. So it's weird. In some aspects, it really works. In some, it doesn't. I don't know. It's super odd.
I don't understand the not putting ropes in the cage match.
I don't know. I guess you just can't render it out.
I guess there are certain limitations, but just like figure it out. Like other consoles and games have figured out how to do it. Why? Like it's such like a weird decision to make. But we gotta go back and we gotta talk about a feature that you brought up.
I'm sorry, there are ropes. This screenshot we have here, they're like kind of hidden in the cage itself.
Oh.
Yeah, there's actually a shadow there. We're dumb for not looking at the shadows.
Yeah, look at that. I thought it was the shadow of the cage. I
misspoke. Don't jump on us, guys. Sorry.
I legitimately thought that it was the shadow of the cage in the screenshot that we were looking at. And I was just like, all right.
I just did a different search, and yeah, it's there. Sorry.
Let's talk about this now, though.
Let's talk about...
No, let's talk about... No, cage doesn't work either. Let's talk about Showdown Legends of Wrestling, because it's the door. It's the door. It's a weird cage that is not at all associated with the Legends of Wrestling at all. It's a chain link fence cage, which I don't... Pretty sure Hogan never wrestled in.
Maybe in like his 2002 run. I don't remember.
Not depicting it's the Slam and Andre.
Right.
Like era. And then, it's a door exit. And that's, and it's right up there with the pace of you climbing the cage. I don't even know how to describe it. I got this game. I was so excited. Oh, a cool cage match. Like Legends 2 had a cage, but this one just looked way better. It's just weird because you call for the door to be open. The referee opens the door. And then you just stand there with your head poking out the door, just waiting. Your guy just waits while you button mash. There's no animation. He's just waiting there like, am I going out or am I coming back in? What's happening here? It's terrible. If you want to play a good 30 minutes of a cage match, Showdown Legends of Wrestling is for you. And the cage is like ridiculously tall.
Oh, it's massive. Massive.
It may be the tallest cage in the series of games that we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
maybe WrestleMania 2000 is bigger.
They finally got something right with Showdown where the graphics were like way better and they got some licenses, but oh man, there was just some bad as well. This is one of the aspects. But this next one I put in here because personally growing up, I struggled so hard with this one. I hated it. WWF Attitude for the Game Boy Color. So bad. You want to talk about no ropes in a cage match. This one, no ropes. It's just the ugly, I guess, blue cage. It looks bluish, black. I don't know. And it takes... You want to talk about taking forever to climb. Your guy does the animation of climbing fast, but you're going... like up a rung every 10 seconds.
Which is weird because it looks like it's a ladder and you would be able to climb it very simply, but it's not. That is not the case, unfortunately, for this game.
I remember it specifically, just hating it because you would have to do it when you were playing through like the title mode or whatever, championship, and you'd get to the cage match and be like, fuck. It's funny, the screenshot we have of The Undertaker, he looks like Seth Rollins in The Shield.
Kind of does.
Kind of does.
Kind of does.
But okay, here's one we just played on our playthrough tonight. Similar to everything we said about No Mercy. So the match itself is decent. The cage, though, probably one of the worst we've seen. You know what really bothers me in cage matches? When the cage is so visible from the front. Like, I want to be inside the cage. I don't want to see the front of it. Like, I get it. Like, Retromania and the 2D games, you're looking over the cage at an angle. That's fine. But when it's transparent in front of you, no.
Yeah, I
want to be in it.
I don't know why... I don't know why more companies don't decide to make the front of the cage transparent. Like, it's not, like, limited to one company that makes a game. There's so many series of games where, it's dead center and you can't escape it. It's just right there.
Yeah. And not only that, the cage itself is like blotchy and ugly, and it's an eyesore.
Or when you get the, what's it called? The, when they kind of try to make it opaque, but it just draws your attention to it more. I think that's what WrestleMania 2000 does. They try to make it like a little opaque where they like, all right, but when you're actually in the cage, we'll just, we'll turn down the opacity a little bit. And you're just like, no.
No, I don't want to see it at all. Where it does look weird in No Mercy seeing only 3 sides.
Yeah.
But gameplay-wise, it's so much better. But okay. I put this one on here. WCW Thunder. It's available via cheat code to get the steel cage in here. Now, it's actually a decent-looking cage, but the gameplay itself sucks. So for that, I'm putting it here under worst. I gotta say, to my knowledge, I think this is the only steel cage in a WCW video game. There's none in Revenge, right?
No.
None in Mayhem. None in Nitro. Backstage Assault, there's no ring at all. We're not getting one in World Tour and all those. The only thing I could think maybe in like the olden NES titles, but I don't think they're either.
I don't think they're either.
But WCW was also not really known for cage matches. There was some here and there, but then, it was mostly War Games and the Triple Cage. Which
even
happened
those
only 2 times.
War Games isn't even in.
That's probably hard to put in a video game back then.
Man, there was a Game Shark code to try to get the War Games match in No Mercy. John, it's just it's 2 rings, but they're just over the crowd.
Oh, okay.
Like
great.
they didn't
put a lot of
expand
thought
out
into
the
that one,
arena.
yeah.
They just went, what if we take this ring, I'll put in the code to shift it over, and then we'll duplicate it, and it's just like half's in the ring, half's on the left side of the crowd, half's in the right side of the crowd. It was hilarious.
Jesus Christ. Okay. But okay. With that, not only you, George, I want everybody to interact with us on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever, Instagram. Tell us what you think are your favorite cage matches and what are your worst. But right now, I want to know, George, what's your favorite cage match of any game you've played?
I'm going to go... So, the SmackDown vs. Raw series is very consistent with what they did throughout the entirety of the cage matches. Not much really changes throughout that series, so I don't think I have to pick a year. It's just the SmackDown vs. Raw series, I think for me has my favorite generation of cage matches. And then I'll say honorable mention to WrestleFest, just because it's pretty.
I get that. So I think I enjoy Day of Reckoning because, well, go figure. I always mention how much I love that game. But
you're consistent, if nothing else, John.
It's similar to the way you would play No Mercy, where once your meter fills up red, you can go over. If it's blue, you're going to fall down and not be able to go over. So I like that competitive aspect of the game, and it's just prettier because it's on Day of Reckoning. Now, one game I wish had a cage is TNA Impact. The 6 sides of steel in a video game, because you're getting the Ultimate X and a few other games. I think they could have put a cage, and then they could have put a smaller cage and made a King of the Mountain match.
I gotta tell you, man, the fact that we get Ultimate X in a game, and the fact that we've gone this long and haven't played that game, man, we are really holding fast to the whole, we gotta get Dixie Carter on here. But
we'll see.
I just think it's great that, like you said, maybe you're not getting a cage match, but to get something that's so unique to TNA in that,
lethal lockdown with the weapons.
It's, I don't know, maybe you don't really need the whole cage match thing if you've got all that.
Yeah, I don't know, but I do think I think one of their mobile games did have a steel cage match. One of the one we covered for for like Android and stuff.
Yep.
I think that had a cage.
It's not crossed the line. Isn't it just TNA Impact, right?
I believe so. Yeah, one of those. All right. I mean, we talked about cage matches. We talked about our favorite cage matches: the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty. I think
I'm very interested to hear what everyone else is going to say.
Yeah, let us know, please. But I think it's time we go to the soft lock.
All right, so soft lock is a segment where one of our Patreon members gives us a topic to discuss. Sometimes it is a question to answer, and this week the question comes from Jeremy Verrett. Germ, what's going on, Germ? And his question is, if you had no choice and had to be inserted into a horror movie, which one would you choose? This is the tough one.
How do you want to die?
See, I immediately was just like, give me like the funny horror movie where like...
Yeah. I mean, I was going to twist it into like video game form. Like, which game would you like to play? Like horror movie game. Like there's the Friday the 13th game, which looks pretty cool. There's Dead by Daylight. There's all those. But if we're going to go movie, I'm going Army of Darkness.
So, you know, I also was thinking about saying
Right,
Army
Bruce?
of Darkness. Yeah.
He's sitting right here.
I got to tell you, man, not a huge horror movie guy. I've seen the classics.
I mean, it's how do you want to die, George?
Well, because you know what? What about Nah, that doesn't count. So what about like Ghostbusters? That's like comedy horror.
Yeah, it doesn't really count. I don't know. There's like the screams, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. So which
not another
horror
teen
movie
or a scary movie?
which horror movie would you want a game made out of? Because I think Scream would be pretty cool.
What about something like you know, it would be a very interesting game out of a horror movie.
There was a Scream game for Xbox 360.
Final Destination.
Oh yeah.
Final Destination game would be interesting, and I don't think that's something that has ever been made. But those first like couple of movies, man, they are like so many fears from like so many irrational phobias of things happening because of those stupid movies.
I'm looking here. Scream video game. I think these are all fan art. I don't know if one actually.
I know that
ever even happened.
I
Oh, there's
know
one for
that-
PS3.
Oh, I was gonna say, I know that Ghostface has been in, like, portrayed in games.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I know that he was in, like, Warzone and stuff like that. But I don't know if there was ever, like, an official Scream game.
No. Either way, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. What about, I would say, obviously, like...
Evil Dead game came out. I haven't even touched it yet.
Yeah. I mean, the Halloween, Friday the 13th, you know.
Yeah, that's what's cool about Dead by Daylight, because you can get a lot of these characters and play as them, like Ghostface
Yeah,
and all
Nightmare on Elm Street, like all those big ones.
that. All right, but cool. Just keeping the Halloween spirit alive.
Oh, yeah.
But all right, are you ready? It's
Speaking of
time.
scary things...
It's time for some gaming news. Your gaming news this week. Microsoft is under the impression that Marvel's Wolverine will launch in 2023. That's only a year away. Are we going to see Wolverine? At the time of this recording, Thursday night, a GTA 6 trailer is rumored to drop tomorrow, Friday, October 21st. Are we seeing GTA 6 because of maybe the leak is pushing the trailer along? I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Silent Hill Townfall and Silent Hill 2 remake were announced for the PC and the PS5. And this is the one we spoke about with our Discord today. It's a little disappointing. Gotham Knights reviews are in. IGN only gives it a 5, and I went further. I went on Metacritic, and I think through all the consoles and PC, they hovered around like 60%. Nothing really went a little higher than that. The IGN review specifically says Gotham Knights is a co-op-centric caped adventure that made my interest wane thanks to... I see what they did there. Wane thanks to poor combat, a transparently predictable mystery, and grueling progression. Now, the first Arkham was so unique, so cool. The kills were awesome. The fighting was cool, but then it got so repetitive. And then by the time you get to like Gotham Knights and all that, not Gotham Knights, Arkham Knight, Arkham City, all those games, Origins, it's so repetitive. It's all the same. I felt like that with the original Spider-Man games. Not so much Spider-Man and Miles Morales, because you do have like the cool specials and signatures that you could do. But I get that it's predictable, especially if you're going to be 4 characters fighting through Gotham City. It's going to get a little repetitive.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. Like Arkham Knight, Arkham City, all those things. Like it does get repetitive for me. And I'm sure a lot of people felt this way too. Like the only thing that really carried me through those games is just like wanting to progress through the story. Yeah. And that's really it. There wasn't anything else that really like kept me engaged in terms of like, you know, wanting to 100% complete the game and like find all the Riddler question marks and all that stuff. It was just like, you know,
oh, fuck those question marks.
Oh god. Like it's like the feathers in Assassin's Creed.
I am not a completist.
The bane of my existence. The only game recently that I have 100% completed is Miles Morales. Like 100%, because I love that game so much.
That and the first one, I definitely 100'd.
Yeah. But it's I would have to imagine that this game probably is suffering from the same thing, where the only thing that really will keep people going through is to, you know, find out, I mean, according to this review, what the very predictable mystery surprise is going to be, which, I mean, it's a comic book game. I'm sure that you can figure it out. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
We're gonna have to play it and give and just see what happens.
Exactly. We're just gonna take it from there. But okay, we both said we were gonna wait on that anyway, so yeah, we'll wait.
Yeah.
Games releasing this week, and there's a lot. On the 25th, Mountain Blade 2, Bannerlord, Victoria 3. On the 27th, this is the majority of them, Arkanoid, Eternal Battle.
It's like a roster read.
Yeah, Brewmaster, we spoke about that one. I think we should both dabble in that. Gunfire Reborn, Horse Club Adventure 2, Hazelwood Stories, Moonshine Inc., Papercut Mansion, that sounds painful. The Pinball Wizard, I wonder if that's like a...
He's a pinball wizard.
The pinball game for the old PC, for like Windows XP.
Oh shit, is that name Pinball Wizard?
I don't know. But this one's for you. Sackboy, A Big Adventure.
Have you ever played any of the Little Big Planet games?
Nope.
Ah.
Saturnalia, Star Ocean, The Divine Force, Warhammer 40,000, Inquisitor Martyr. And now on the 28th, Bayonetta 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Did you get to play the open beta?
George, I don't play anything anymore. Factorio for the Switch, Live by the Sword, and Resident Evil Reverse.
Are you going to get Modern Warfare 2?
I'm going to get it. I don't know how much I'll play it, but I'm going to get it. I still haven't even purchased NHL. Since NHL came out, actually, no, I can't say since it came out, because since I bought the Xbox, so since Prime Day, whenever that was.
Okay.
I've been playing the new NHL and be a pro mode, so I'm finally the best rookie in the league. I'm scoring all the goals. I made it to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm like 2 rounds in. I got to finish that before I can get to the new game, or else it was all for nothing.
That's very true.
So once I can sit down, finish the playoffs, I'll hit purchase right after that.
All right. Well, guys, youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast for our weekly playthrough videos, exclusive content, and a whole lot more. John, let's talk about Patreon. Every time we do this part, I always want to do the
let's talk about
No, you know the Bush's baked beans? He goes, roll that beautiful bean footage. I just want to go, roll that Patreon footage.
I think early on you've hit me with that a few times.
Yeah.
But all right, you get your show early and ad-free every Friday with the show notes. If you sign up for Patreon, you can submit your soft-lock questions by Thursday afternoon. We will read them on air, as you heard today. This Tuesday, you're getting Wild's World from the When We Were Young Fest in Las Vegas. That's going to be a
God,
wild
I hope
one.
that's worth the money.
Last Tuesday, Clash and Burn, the FWF Live 4 vlog. We take you through our whole day with Top Shelf Troy Nelson and the whole gang. It was a lot of fun. Liam Davis in the car ride. George was there this time. And on October 26th, see, this whole cage match talk, it was not for nothing. Because live on Twitch, GMP64 presents Lockdown. I can't wait. Road to WrestleMania.
It is, I can't believe season 2 is already almost done, man. It's this and one more. It's unbelievable.
Leave the memories alone.
Ooh. It's a little touch and go about season 3 there, boys. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
But John, would you like me to tell you what we're playing next week?
Oh boy, would I. Tell me. Tell me more, tell me more.
Man, you are just full of song today. I like it. WWE SmackDown versus Raw 2006, the full breakdown. We played this earlier, like a month ago, during Game Wars, and, I figured why not. I believe that we have already played the first SmackDown vs. Raw, but now we're officially getting into the numbered series of games. Next week, SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. Can't wait. All right, well... Are we putting a bow on it? Are we done talking about cages?
Put a bow on the cage. I'm climbing over. I'm not falling off this time.
Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. You know, I got song references. GameMarksPod.com/shop for all of our exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod for all of our exclusive new shirt designs. And Patreon.com/GameMarksPod for everything that you just heard John talk about, show notes, exclusive shows, and all that fun stuff. We love making that content at Game Marks Pod on all forms of social media. And please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. John can't ring the notification bell right now because his wife is sleeping, but he is a madman. Make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And of course, if you have a product or service that you would like to advertise on this podcast, please reach out to us at GameMarksPod@gmail.com. John's got to go now. I don't even know if he's going to be here next week because of the ringing the bell. So potentially for the last time, do that thing.
I'll be back. Game over, Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future Endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.